Hello, everybody. It's great to be here again. My name is Gary Fowler, and I am the CEO and co founder of GSD Venture Studios. Welcome to my show, GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 17 companies. I've been involved in two unicorn. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for 1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang about 5.5 years ago. Love artificial intelligence and quantum computing and make a dent in the universe as Steve Jobs, I got my shirt on today, Steve Jobs would say. So anyhow, great to have you here. I've got an incredible guest who's done so many things and has been through so much. It's just incredible. She's an actress, she's a model, she's a mother. She loves technology, loves digital, loves crypto. She speaks 5 languages, Greek background, grew up in Montreal, and just an incredible person. She hosts her show on iHeartRadio, and proud to say that I've been involved in that show with her. So, anyhow, I'd like to introduce Xen Sams. Hi, Zen. How are you doing today?
Hello, Gary. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, really good. So, tell me a little bit about it. I mean, you've done so much and you've been through so much. I mean, the we talked last week about some of the medical things you've been through. I mean, what's the grit that really helps you to be able to as you're going through your life? You said you had involved in a situation where you had multiple stitches. I guess 90 something like that. Walking down the street. Then you had some problems with your thyroid. How do you get through it? Zen, what keeps you positive to be able to plow through this stuff?
Well, it's funny because these things, it's kind of like, you get life throws you curveballs, and you either can go through life seeing the glass half full or half empty, right? So I have always been a very optimistic person, looking at things always on the positive side. It's kind of what gets me through life. I always meet people and give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't, doubt people's motives and alternatives. There are the types of people in the world that you meet that are kind of, they always operate with one foot in, one foot out, because they try to, out of fear of being, either lied to or hurt to or cheated. And so people carry all this negativity, and that changes how you relate with people because of the baggage that you hold. So I've never been that person, right? I let things roll off my sleeve. I don't internalize darkness and negative feelings. So when these very traumatic things happened to me, right? Trip and fall down the street randomly, tripping and falling over a Con Edison wire cover is what it was. And I broke my face. I had basically a maxillofacial fracture, and I currently have a metal plate under my orbital and 4 stitches down my nasal passage. Four screws down my nasal passage. These stitches were internal. They literally flipped my lip, and it was 90 stitches internally, from the base of my top teeth to the base of my teeth in the on the far back, to basically place the metal plate, and it was all done with laser. So there was no like facial reconstruction needed. Thankfully, I healed even, and there was no trauma in terms of having to go through another surgery where now there's plastic surgery involved. That didn't happen, but yes, it was traumatic. And then of course I ended up with Graves' disease earlier in my at the beginning of my career, which is a thyroid dysfunction. And having gone through radiation treatment and having seen what a goiter does to somebody's internal clock, so to speak, because that your thyroid regulates everything. And if your thyroid is off, everything is off. So if your thyroid is either too hyper, you could gain weight. There's symptoms that are very symptomatic of a hyperthyroid and hypothyroid. And so I was hyper, right? I had a goiter. It was Graves' disease. One thing led to another. And of course, it took me out of the modeling industry. I had to stop modeling for quite some time, and I was signed to a really big agency at the time, Elite New York, and I was shooting with major photographers. And of course, when you undergo radiation, you lose your eyelashes, you lose your eyebrows. There's some level of dryness that you're feeling on your face, and of course, with that comes a lot of emotional and some level of depression, right? Because you're seeing your whole world kind of transform in front of you, not for the better. So it was a little bit jarring, but I got through it, and that led me to acting. I wrapped my hands in my I embraced the industry essentially because I felt like the modeling industry was very skin deep, and it's true. I mean, beauty is not just your surface. And so when these internal things happened to me, I started analyzing my life and thinking, well, as a model, I can do XYZ. But then if I get sick and something happens to me, just like, it was a rude awakening. The universe pointed me in a direction where very early on in my career, I battled, something traumatic. But that led me to truly understand that you need something a little bit more solid and deeper to really kind of frame and put the roots down, because modeling was only skin deep and it was very surface. And so I transitioned to acting. One thing led to another, ended up in major feature films. I'm currently in a movie with Samuel L. Jackson called The Banker, another movie with Mel Gibson coming out called Last Looks. It's coming out in a couple of months. There's also a movie with Terrence Howard out called Golly that I'm currently in. And I've done a laundry list of movies in the last, 5 or 6 years, up to the point where the pandemic hit and I had started becoming a media contributor and ended up doing media contributing on the Newsmax platform twice a week, over 80 million viewers and 70 million mobile devices between 2019 and 2021, and started bringing everything women related: film, fashion, pop culture, entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Of course, at this point, I have a 5.5-year-old daughter, Alexa. My stepdaughter is 19. She's at University of Georgia. My stepson is 16. He's at Calhoun here in the city. And my husband's the CEO of a huge film production company, Romulus Entertainment. So, the perspective that I have from even my demographic, being married to somebody over a decade older than me, having been married for a very long time, and I've been with my husband since my early 20s. So,
Oh, wow. So you were married before?
No, I had a boyfriend that was,
I got it. I got it.
yeah.
And so I got a question for you, Zen. So what, when you looked at, you had these stitches, you went down through it. What was the thing that pulled you out? I mean, was it because of your background being this, this Greek American or Greek Canadian? Was it that? Was it, just the drive and strength? What was the thing? Because not everybody could do that. It's just amazing, actually. When people do
Um,
startups, I hear about the ones that succeed, and very few, 5% succeed, but a lot of it, you got to look inside your soul. You got to look yourself in the mirror and say, do I really want to do it? Do I have the strength, internal strength? What drove you?
um, I think it was kind of like they're giving up is never an option for me, but it's not even about giving up. It's more about we've, I've known from a young age that our purpose in life is not to just exist and not to just be a robot and just not be proactive, our purpose in life is much more. We have to either be on this planet to leave some level of a legacy, to impact in a positive way, to nurture, bear children. All of this doesn't just happen overnight, but it also will never happen if our attitude and our mind isn't aligned with all of these things that we should be accomplishing as individuals, because you come to realize that we're capable of so much and we are our own worst enemy. And if we actually applied, even 50% of our brain, we would be so much more advanced than we are. But by nature, a lot of human beings tend to be lazy, and we tend to fall into patterns, and we tend to fall into repetitive behaviors that are not necessarily healthy for us. And so for me, I've always been able to kind of nip things in the bud. A lot of people will need that extra help, or people will need to go to therapy and talk through what what their issues are with friends and family. I've always been able to kind of just snap out of things, right? Even when I do get stuck in a rut mentally, emotionally, there's something that kicks in and it only lasts momentarily. And so I always tell myself, today's going to end good. Today's going to end better than it did yesterday. Today, I'm going to learn something more, and today I'm going to pay it forward. And I think when everything happened to me, from the accident to the radiation to all of the above, I learned to just watch the world unfold around me. And if I was sick or if I wasn't sick, it didn't matter. Life kept going to the people and to the people around me that I loved as well. So it was either give up and sit here and kind of, feel like the world owes me something, or you take life for what it is,
Yeah,
and
yeah. I agree
yeah.
100%. I mean, part of it is keeping that positive attitude. Been down through that a few times myself with different situations. And, it's about grabbing yourself and, saying, listen, let's go down through and let's accomplish this. Let's do it. And when you do that, amazing things happen, right? It's manifestation. It really does happen for you. You visualize. In fact, I did a TEDx about that. We were talking of passion, optimism, visualization, because that's what life's all about. If you paint the picture, you get exactly what you paint. So be careful
Absolutely.
what you ask for, right?
Absolutely.
So now,
Absolutely.
so tell us a little bit about iHeart and the things you're involved in today. I know you're doing this incredible show. You have incredible guests on there. Tell us a little bit about that, and where you're going. I know you're doing the acting thing, and we talked about before about some of the memorizing lines. I mean, it's incredible. But tell us a little bit about what you're doing at iHeart.
So iHeartRadio, I ended up launching my show, A Moment of Zen, on iHeartRadio on the platform, and we ended up not just being a live radio show. So you have a podcast, and a lot of people are very confused between all this terminology, these new digital terms: podcast, vodcast, live radio, digital streaming, TV podcast. Everyone's confused about what that means. So in latent terms, the easiest way I can explain it is that our show is a live radio show on Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WR, the voice of New York, which is owned by iHeartRadio. And iHeart owns, in the tri-state area, 8 very powerful brands, radio stations like 103.5, the Broadway Network. We have Delilah, Q104, right? So all those stations. And then nationwide, we have about 850 radio stations. So under the iHeart umbrella, 710 WR is where I live, and that station reaches about 750,000 listeners per week. And then our show launched in April, and we are launched with sponsors as well. So we have national sponsors such as Ocean Casino Resort, Biche Cucina, Helen Yarmack International, Romulus Entertainment, Aikido Pharma, Revere Securities, Tempest, right, a Burkhan World Project. So we have sponsors that also sponsor the show. And as talent, it's my job to make sure that the content that we deliver, and it's, again, because we're not just radio, and I'm going to get to the trilogy of what the show is, which ties in very beautiful to the digital process. So the show is a trilogy, right? Live radio. After we are live on Saturday night, we get converted to a digital podcast. So that's the second, right? And then the very next day, we're refurbished as a vodcast, in latent terms, a TV podcast. So we
Mhm.
serve 3 masters. The people that listen statistically are not the same people that watch. And statistically, the same people that watch are not the same people that engage. So by a trilogy, I mean radio, digitally streaming on the internet, and then as well social media. Our show has a very specific layout, in where we have 3 headlining celebrity guests. Those celebrity guests are all trending on social media and all have a very specific amount of followers. They all have 50,000 plus, right? If they have anything less, we shy away from these 14-minute interviews, because our show doesn't only live on the radio, we live everywhere, and we need to be able to be repurposed. And the best way
Mhm.
that we can have our advertisement is by making sure that our guests are also promoting us. It's the most organic, natural pyramid, marketing pyramid you're ever going to come across, because of the way that our show is structured. We constantly get redistributed from the guests themselves,
Mhm.
from the radio station, and then from my social media following and all the guests following as well. So we're constantly, it's like a big vehicle in rotation. So
No,
that
that's fantastic. So when you get these guests, get the celebrity guests on there. I mean, how is it dealing with them? How is it dealing with them? So you have a top name celebrity. What is it like, Zen, when you bring them on? And I don't want to name names, but when you bring them onto the show, what is it like? What's the how how do you get them, and how do you really enchant them to make the interview interesting?
So the most important thing is my network. One of the reasons I was able to have a show is because pretty much self-sufficient and entrepreneurial. I don't need a booking department to book my celebrity guests. They are my network. As an actor in Hollywood and as a model signed to a huge agency, they're phone calls away. They live in my Rolodex. So that was indicating, number one, that, you know, it's about keeping your costs low. If I don't need that many departments and I could almost be a under 10 person show, then that show becomes so much more accessible. So booking the guests, it's like, again, back to that pyramid marketing, right? Once I have 3-4 celebrity headliners, right? The first guests I had on the show were Kwaku Mandela, Nelson Mandela's grandson, Miss Universe Canada, Nova Stevens, and Frank Grillo, who is a huge, action hero, Marvel actor in Hollywood, right? All headliners with all big names. As a result of having them on the show, it was a ripple effect. They told their friends, some other celebrities hopped on. My husband has contacts. So I use my network to book the celebrities basically for the show. And that is a very fluid process. I mean, it's almost like there's an abundance of them because I've already, it's a live show, but we have guests booked all the way to now. We're booking out to September 11th. So we're kind of making sure that we have all that content there beforehand. And then basically dealing with them, Gary, I have to say, it's the easiest thing in the world remotely. It makes it makes all the difference. Number one, I text them. I don't even have to go through their PR agent, maybe 2 or 3 times, but the PR people are very nice, and it's always kind of quarterbacking. I give them a slot, and they love iHeart. That iHeart banner takes me everywhere, in the sense that a lot of celebrities will shy away from specific platforms that, there's not much repurposing or there's not that much, but the iHeart logo carries a lot of weight. And because iHeart has over 2 million subscribers on the app, it's one thing to have your analytics on the air, which we have them, right? But it's another thing to have them on the app where there's 2 million users that with the proper guests, if you have bling and if you have flash, they'll listen to your show because they want to hear about how Frank Grillo ended up being a Marvel superhero, so to speak, or what he does to keep fit. And some of these celebrities are very eager to get their story out. So what I've realized is when a celebrity is in the comfort of their own home, they're so much more relaxed and there's no issues, and it's remote. So it's not like, oh, fix my hair, fix my makeup. And I see the difference. If you're in studio, and I've done in studio, it's a whole process. There's hair, there's makeup. I want blue toilet paper. The pistachios weren't, seeded. Well, whatever. But remotely, it's a very different
too. I mean, there are demands, right? I heard that one of the celebrities wants so many red M&Ms. Red M&Ms. I mean, just kind of odd things.
We see that more on the movie sets, and I've been, I was on the film set of The Banker. There was a couple of headlining female names on that had very strong opinions about their wardrobe and hair and makeup and delayed production, but they're still amazing actors. And it's just, it's kind of it's the Hollywood game. But as far as my show goes, it's been very easy to get the celebrities. It's been very easy to deal with them. And here's the best part. When I hype them up with like a huge intro, because I've done my research and I've done my homework, they love that. Because number one, not everybody researches people's lives, right? You get guests that come on, and most hosts are 85% of the time unprepared, because it's like, oh, I'm just going to ask you everything as this unfolds. But the problem is, because I've been taught to work in very specific time constraints, right? When you have a podcast, you have 30 minutes, 45 minutes. There's no commercial time. There's no engineers in your ear. I'm dealing with live radio. So the clock's ticking. I got to get those questions in. So I have to be super prepared. I have to memorize certain facts that, of course, will make the interview so much more rewarding, not just for the interviewee, but for the listeners. Because again, listeners are selfish, and they should be. They should pick and choose who they listen to and how they're going to spend their 30 or 40 minutes if they're not going to be getting any kind of worthy content out of that segment. But I think that a lot of men, so to speak, listen to me. And nowadays, more, especially in the digital world, and ever since I started doing these crypto segments or these digital segments, nowadays, more and more women are coming to fields that were not seen before, such as gaming and crypto. And Statista showed the evolution of gender in the gaming industry. And Gary, from 2006 to 2020, from being a little portion to basically 50% of the gamers they're women now, and it's women who are gamers, and the same increase, if not more impressive, has been observed in the cryptoverse.
Yeah.
I was
No, I
reading.
think it's fantastic. I mean, this digital transformation. I mean, look at how the world's changing so quickly. With we've had to go online with Zoom, with StreamYard. You're absolutely right. We mean the democratization of opportunities, and it's great to hear that all kinds of folks are involved, and from disadvantaged groups to female entrepreneurs. I mean, everybody has a chance to be able to partake the way things are today. And as we look forward with this, this resurgence of COVID, I don't know what it's like in New York, but right now I'm in Palm Beach, and not, things are coming back. But the good news is we have these platforms in place to be able to do things. We got cryptocurrencies. The world's changing, and
Oh yeah.
governments are changing, and we all have to change with it because it's happening very, very quickly. I mean, from your perspective, let's talk about crypto. Let's talk about technologies that are out there. Let's talk about loyalty. What do you think? I mean, what's the world going to look like in another 2 years? Because we see these new innovative technologies, loyalty tokens coming out, entire token universes coming out. What's your opinion on it?
Well, I think I'm going to throw the ball back to women, okay? Because we are living in a world where the average civilian is very confused about cryptocurrency, what that means, if it's safe here and there, right? So there's a lot of red flags for the average person who's not well versed in this. But social psychology states that women are less risk taking than men and take the time to weigh risks in actions they're about to make. That's a fact. Now, therefore, them getting started into crypto is the go sign that everyone was waiting to invest in, I feel,
Mhm.
from a women's perspective.
Mhm.
And crypto has grown closer and closer to the mainstream, and Bitcoin is one of the most trendy words on Twitter, Gary. Like, it is when you go to Twitter, everything is Bitcoin, right? Like, every other post has something relevant to everything going on in the market.
Mhm.
And the more women are getting their hands dirty within that industry, the more crypto is getting on the spotlight, is what I'm feeling, because women in crypto is for
I agree.
sure.
I agree 100%. I mean, I see it too. And, but the thing is it a Dutch tulip phenomenon or is this real? That's the thing. And which one is, I had a show yesterday and they said there's what, 10,000 different coins that are out there today. How do you know what is what? You got Dodgy, you got this, you got so many different coins that are out there. What's real and what's not?
I think it has to do with having to do your you know homework, essentially. And you have to start to tell yourself, if this is something that you're going to get involved in, if this is the industry that you are going to invest in or get well versed in, nothing comes easy, right? So if you want to be a successful investor in cryptocurrency, then you have to start doing your research, reading the right blogs, talking to the right people, and in Bitcoin's case, we have a big issue with between the blockchain and back to, security. And a lot of women are saying, well, if we do our homework and we realize that, for instance, decentralized blockchains are immutable, which means that the data entered is irreversible. So for Bitcoin, this means that the transactions are permanently recorded and viewable to anybody. Well, for me, that is a huge, security check mark. That's a good thing, right? And if
Mhm.
you have that kind of transparency and you understand it, then I believe, if you do your research properly, you won't fall into a deep dark hole when it comes to, cryptocurrency. Now, in Bitcoin's case, blockchain is used in a decentralized way, in a way so that no single person or group has control. And for me, all users collectively retraining control is a key takeaway to why I want to be involved, because being able to maintain that control is very different than the banking system we have in place right now across the world. So I believe that with the rise of all this technology, with the information coming our way, I believe that in the next 2 to 5 years, this is going to be a way of life for at least 30% of the population. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to be more than that, but I do think that it's still an infant industry. And I think it's going to take a little bit more time for people to wrap their heads around all of these concepts, and really feel safe with placing their money in something that seems to be hot and cold, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, I mean, they're not, it was interesting, Zen, because recently we just had our first Bitcoin ATM put in a gas station very close to where I live. And, I once that Bitcoin ATM came in, I understood that this thing has really gone mass. And, I've invested in crypto myself. I've seen the ups and downs and ins and outs, but, it's going to change. The world's going to change and it's going to really democratize the opportunities, as we said. I'm dealing a lot in Africa and I can see the impact. There's some governments are resistant, but it's going to happen. I mean, it's either today or tomorrow. It's going to happen. So let's look for those players coming out. Listen, we're coming to the top of the hour. So, what's going to happen with you over the next year, and how do people get a hold of you?
Well, definitely. But I just wanted to also say one more thing about, the cryptocurrencies in terms of that safety, because I know a lot of women, are trying to research if this is viable. And I think the technology has its own merits and demerits. But overall, I just want to say that cryptocurrencies are safe because they cannot be duplicated, in my opinion. And these virtual currencies will solve real world problems, not can, but they will. And aiming for a decentralized economy, reliance on financial institutions will decrease. And that's the whole point of this. And trading can become fully digital with no inflation. And if you look at what's going on with the economy, inflation is a huge issue. So the whole technology is based on an incredibly complex algorithm that the average person can't understand. But I think that we are headed in the right path. And I think that with the way that the world is evolving based on the climate in politics, the climate in our healthcare industry, the climate everywhere, I think people are starting to wake up. And like you said, when you go to your local gas station and you see that is a way of accepting currency and being able to now use one for the other and get your gas in exchange, when Walmart is hiring entire departments to lead an entire market in cryptocurrency and digital, well, there you have it, Gary. You said it. So back to where you can find me every Saturday night. I'm live on 710 WR. You could find me on Instagram at Xen Sams with an X. You can find me on Twitter at Xen Sams with an X. You can go on YouTube, find me there as well. But if you want to hear me live, it would be Saturday nights on 710 WR. If you download the iHeart app and spotlight a moment of Zen, you can subscribe to the show. And every time I go live, you will get a notification.
Absolutely. Zen, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. To my viewers out there, check out Zen's show. It's incredible. She's got incredible guests. She's very worldly and understands tech and a whole lot of other things. My name's Gary Fowler. Thanks for joining us today on GST Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. I'll be back again next week with another exciting episode. Stay happy, stay healthy, and stay safe. And most importantly, keep smiling. Thanks a lot, Zen. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, Gary. Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.